Great. So let's actually get to the first slide. Just start with the theme: three-card Monte, cloud security and mobile. Just a little play on an old street game that I saw quite a bit when the days I was in New York. Trying not to get pulled in, sucked into that, to get snagged by it. And the reason I chose this for the theme, because I've heard for the last decade at the least, within the engineering side, where I have spent most of my efforts, has been with it seems to be an ever-changing first. I remember 12, 15 years ago, it was a big push, mobile first. Really had to design our systems with the mobile mindset, as that was becoming more prevalent. And now, we hear quite a bit about cloud first. We need to have cloud native applications and not just migrating on-prem systems to cloud. And security, of course, comes up quite a bit. And I've been seeing that in reference to first a lot, that we need to be have security first when it comes to designing and architecting our systems. And I really want to make a case that data is first. And of course, it does encompass all of these. When we talk about cloud security, mobile, data is really at the core of that. And it's the purpose of the systems that we build. It's the purpose of the solutions that we put together, the applications. It's what's driving business today. It is the data, whether we're processing it, transforming, transmitting it, distributing it. Data is at the core of what we do. And we are seeing, as brought out in the introduction, that particularly with some of the events over the last year, even smaller businesses, so we have enterprises of all sizes that are beginning to embrace cloud, adopt it. They see that there's a need for it. It's something that's been around for a while. Many of us have been advocating it and pushing it as a technology that that can really help to drive business when it comes to scalability, resilience, continuity, those factors. And we really got to see that firsthand over this last year, how important it was. And the enterprises that were ready with that fared better. And then it also brought to light opportunities for others to really adopt that and drive towards that. But when we move to the cloud, when we embrace that, when we adopt that technology within our enterprise, the core principles remain the same of any networked application and data, things that have been around for decades, whether it was distributed systems, mainframe, time-sharing systems. Nothing really there has changed when it comes to the core principles about what it is that we need to be designing into these systems. So then security is first. And I do make a case for that as well, because there's the data is of no value if it is not secure. A company's data is its crown jewel, so it is imperative that it is secure. While it is the core of their business, maintaining the security of that is paramount to the success of the business. And each business, each enterprise will have different levels of risk tolerance that they can accept. But for the most part, there's really no tolerance for data breaches, the leaking of personal information and other very valuable data that a business may obtain. So really, security has to permeate all the way through IT and business culture. It's the core to a technology strategy within the enterprise. Technology architecture must support that strategy, and the security architecture has to align with the technology architecture in order for all of this to come together cohesively. And there again, nothing has changed. This remains the same as it has for decades, as we've been working in networked environments of all different types. Cloud is just the next wave of that, and there will be what's next after beyond cloud. Nothing there will change either. There will still be a need for security to be very at the very forefront of that. So cloud security is first. Let's just pull it all together. And what really is cloud security? We're going to be talking about that a lot today. I look forward to the keynotes later on that will address some very key aspects of what cloud security is. And we're talking about building a technology strategy. that where cloud security is an element of that. There's a set of policies, procedures, services, and solutions that have to feed into an enterprise's cloud security to whatever their framework is that they're adopting. There are elements of each of those, and they have to support the safe capabilities and functionalities that our solutions, whatever we are driving our applications within that enterprise, in those cloud-based applications and data, we must ensure the safety of the functionality of those systems. And we have to have preventive strategies and actions to be able to combat those threats. And we'll have examples of specific ways to do that later on in today's webinar. Some of the security principles that we really have to focus on throughout the when we're building our security policies, procedures, building that strategy, it's not just encryption. Encryption is an element of it, but it must include principles of least privileges for services, as particularly within a cloud environment, where we will be including services that are either built as part of that from our own solutions, or that we'll be using from the cloud provider or from other sources. So we want to make sure that we provide the right level of privileges and nothing more than that. There has to be an isolation between the zones, the security zones, the trust zones that are based on the data classification or the level of sensitivity of that data. And each enterprise is going to have different categories and different levels of classifications in which they will have their data, so that they want to make sure that they have the right zones architected and correctly isolated in order to ensure that there isn't leakage between those, or that there isn't the opportunity for access to data of a sensitivity that we want to make sure that we have correctly and properly secured. There's also the authentication and authorization aspects of access to the system itself, as well as the data by both users and other systems. And that is best administered by a trusted security service outside of the application. We really want to not have that as an inherent part of the application itself, but we can add that on as through either a third party or another trusted security service that we provide or that is provided for us. And another very important part of security principles is the monitoring. And cloud security monitoring must be integrated with an existing enterprise security monitoring tools. So as we move from on-prem to the cloud, an enterprise that is doing that, they will should have in place security monitoring tools that you want to make sure that they work together. And so that there's an integration between those, so you're not viewing those and having separate security monitoring for those different environments. But of course, security principle has to incorporate encryption, and that is end-to-end encryption. That is very critical for a cloud-based solution. You want to make sure that all the data that's in motion and at rest is properly encrypted. So the transport level encryption, such as SSL, TLS, and IP security, those are important transport level encryption that must be architected and built into the solution. And then there's the data store level encryption, such as AES and RSA, so that our data stores, our databases, data warehouses, data lakes, all of those, the data that is there is encrypted and properly secured. And then there are some classifications of data that there has to be a data masking, so that for privacy and for compliance reasons, that not just encrypted, but it also must be masked based on data classification that comply with the standards for which that data is bound. So pulling all of this together, the cloud security strategy, I propose really has to be holistic, and it has to encompass all aspects of our solutions, of our systems, from the inside out, from the top to the bottom, and end to end. We can't leave any area of it exposed. That's where we see, and we'll hear some more about specific areas where there have been breaches, and what are some of the root cause, the analysis from that. There are certain areas that have either been overlooked or been minimized when it comes to the planning and preparation for the security. And really, it takes a proactive approach to that. You have to plan for the controls, the processes and policies. These have to be developed from the beginning all the way through the technology, from the business and the technology teams coming together to plan those controls, processes and policies. And you have to take the view of the user to the environment or the cloud provider to the applications, which includes the data and the services, and not just the code. But all of that we have to look at from a security aspect to ensure that there, from end to end, that security is properly applied throughout. It includes the software, the platform, the infrastructure, all of those areas, even within the cloud environment. All of that has to be, we can't offload or defer security from each of those aspects, but even as whether we're building or we're subscribing or we are working with a provider, we have to, as an enterprise, ensure that there is the proper levels of security across all of that. And it's very important to identify the connections within those areas, from the internal connection, system to system, application to application. Even if they're within the same tenant, you need to make sure that those connections are secure. And then any communication, any connection outside, whether it's back to our own on-prem solutions or out to a third party or to other services and solutions outside of our cloud environment, you want to make sure that you have identified each of those connections as well, and have taken into the consideration the security that must be applied at each of those points. So really, as we look at this, there are far more than just a three-card Monty when we talk about security, and particularly in the cloud. But bringing it all together, cloud security really requires developing a strategy from the beginning, and that's an important part from the technology side, the architecture side, and the business side, to pull all those together so that we aren't leaving any holes or any opportunities for there to be data leakage or for breaches, and that we have the right uh, actions in place for when an incident occurs, that we are ready to act on those very quickly. So that's really what I call that holistic approach, being able to know from end to end what our system includes, and that we have ensured that there are no holes in that entire system. So when we pull it all together, it is a partnership between each of the aspects. There's the cloud, there is the security, there is mobile, there is data, but there's applications, there's systems within that. There's the infrastructure, there's the cloud environment. All of those things can be very overwhelming, but it is important if you have the right security approach, you have the right strategy outlined, those things, you can be successful. And we'll hear some very specific examples of that in the rest of the presentation. So I thank you for your time, and we'll open up for questions if there are any at this time, Richard.
Yes, Stephen, thank you very much for that.